Hello beautiful people, welcome to the channel, The Witchy Goth here, hope you're doing well. Today's video, the week in brief. I wasn't going to do one this week because I was supposed to be away. Unfortunately, I got a flat tire, so I had to cancel my plans and reschedule. And also in the melee that was me packing my car and then unpacking my car, I have lost the doohickey connector thing for my microphone because my phone has got a different connector now. So I'm doing this without a microphone and I'm shouting, so I hope that you can hear me. So this week has been another week that was actually a decade in a week, or it feels like we had a decade in a week. So at the start of the week, President Elon Musk was at Vice President Trump's first cabinet meeting, and he was standing up, which was quite unusual, and he was wearing a black t-shirt and a black cap. Where was his suit? Trump looked very bored and as if he had basically lost his dummy or sucked on a lemon. Then later in the week, President Trump hosted Emmanuel Macron at the White House, where the two had a love fest, hugging and touching each other throughout their meeting. Macron reminded Trump that the money donated by Europe was not on loan, but the money was actually given to them, because Donald Trump is under the impression that Ukraine owe him money. I'm actually going to do a whole other video on Ukraine and President Trump's meeting. So I'm not going to get into too much detail about that in this video. But Macron had to remind him and basically put his hand onto Donald Trump's knee to remind him, yeah, you know, that money was not just to be recovered, but was actually given to them. It also appears that Trump wants to take the United States of America out of NATO, which is interesting as they would be reneging on their agreement with their allies. NATO was put into place after World War II to make sure that the allies looked after each other in case one of those countries was invaded in the future. So what does this mean? Well, it means that if America pulls out and goes to war, the countries within NATO don't have to help. And I'd like to remind everybody that during the America's war with Afghanistan, countries from NATO also fought with them, including Britain, France, Canada, and Australia. These are facts. You can check them out on the interweb. So them pulling out of NATO is a bit sad, really, and maybe it's something that Donald Trump would like to think about in the future, unless of course he's going to put a deal in place with Russia and China and Hungary and etc, etc, etc. So Andrew Tate was flown back to the States, seemingly at the behest of someone in the White House or the cabinet of the White House. How is it that the rich always get away with grape, SA, SV, DV charges? You know, does this prove his innocence? No. No, all it proves is that he's got friends in high places, and the convicted rapist that now is in power of America wants to protect other potential rapists. And I have done a separate video on that story, so I'll link it into the description box below. But interestingly, this morning I saw that Robert Jenrick, who was a Conservative MP, the evil Jenrick who instructed the painting over of Disney characters at a children's processing centre for asylum children because it was too welcoming. But apparently he would like the UK to extradite the Tates, which I fully agree with. And that was supposed to be a process in place anyway. So let's see how that goes. But it may be worth your while to contact your MP and perhaps even get a petition going to get that discussed in Parliament. So after President Macron's visit, Keir Starmer visited, and he handed Donald Trump an invitation from King Charles III to a state visit, a second state visit, unprecedented state visit here in the UK. It's never happened before. However, now I think that it should be rescinded. Trump also put out a hand and tried to stop Keir Starmer talking about Canada, as he was asked a question by one of the reporters there about the USA possibly absorbing Canada as the 51st state of America. And Trump said, that's enough about that. Is Trump jealous because the king is the head of state of Canada? Possibly. And then we had the disgusting spectacle of Trump and Vance bullying Zelensky at the White House meeting on Friday. Now, I'm going to be doing a separate video on that, hopefully releasing it later today, if I can find my doohickey connector for my phone and microphone. Needless to say, the meeting was downright evil. I was disgusted with the behaviour of these two creatures. They ought to be ashamed of themselves, of their behaviour, acting like two playground bullies. But yesterday, Zelensky was warmly greeted by Sir Keir Starmer outside of Downing Street. He actually went out of Downing Street to meet Keir Starmer halfway down the street, which I thought was just wonderful. And he gave President Zelensky a great big hug as well, which just shows how, or the differences in diplomacy and what diplomacy really is. They had a quick brief meeting inside Downing Street that was for the press, and Zelensky did look quite emotional around that. And as I say, it was a vast difference between the meeting with Trump and Vance and with Keir Starmer. You know, this is how meetings should be done. Donald Trump is a narcissist and wants everybody to bow down to him and kiss the ring. Perhaps the ring that he sits on, but, you know. Today, Zelensky is due to meet King Charles, and various presidents and prime ministers of Europe have gathered at Lancaster House here in the UK for an emergency meeting regarding Ukraine. Now, I just want to read an article from the Evening Standard that I saw had just come up. So just bear with me while I find that article. So it's from the Evening Standard. The story is by David Lynch. Yeah, surprising. Anyway, it's only an hour old, so it's quite a fresh article. So Keir Starmer has urged leaders to step up at a once in a generation moment for security in Europe at the start of the Defence Summit on Ukraine. Now, I just want to remind everybody that Ukraine is part of Europe, and Russia had invaded Ukraine and wants Ukraine to be absorbed into Russia. Ukraine is a sovereign state, and obviously it wants to keep its borders. If Ukraine gives over that land to Russia, then there's nothing to stop Russia from moving further into Europe. I believe Poland has got one of the strongest forces on the border with Russia, and I've heard some sort of rumours there that there might be some sort of action on that side. So we will have to see. Anyway, back to the article. Leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron and NATO Security General Mark Rutte, are gathered at Lancaster House in London to forge a common position on ending the war. The Prime Minister told those present that this is a once-in-a-generation moment for the security of Europe and we need to step up. He said that getting a good outcome for Ukraine is vital to the security of every nation here and many others too. The summit comes after leaders rallied around Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky after his confrontation with Donald Trump at the White House on Friday, which has created a divide between the US and its European partners. So, yes, that has taken place, and hopefully we can find a solution to this problem. The Prime Minister said that it has been agreed that a group will work with Ukraine on a plan to stop the fighting and then discuss that with the US and take it forward together. Ukraine's allies need to also continue their support at the moment, Sir Keir said, adding, even while Russia talks about peace, they are continuing their relentless aggression. And they are. Bombs are still falling on Ukraine. He concluded that is the agenda, and we need to agree what steps come out of this meeting to deliver peace through strength for the benefit of all. And yes, we all want peace, but it mustn't be at the expense of another country's borders, at the expense of those borders being changed and Russia retreating, only to come back 3 years later to take on more of Europe, because that is a threat to us all, including here in the UK. He had earlier told the BBC that we've now agreed that the UK, along with France and possibly one or two others, will work with Ukraine on a plan to stop the fighting, and then we'll discuss that plan with the United States. Among those in attendance at the meeting at Lancaster House are Mr. Zelensky and Mr. Macron, as well as German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is also at the meeting alongside Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission. Sir Keir told the gathered leaders that a crowd who welcomed Mr. Zelensky with applause ahead of his visit to Downing Street over the weekend was totally spontaneous. I saw that. The crowd was there, and many, many people here in the United Kingdom stand with Ukraine, as do I. Addressing the Ukrainian president, who was sat alongside him, the Prime Minister added, I hope you know that we are all with you and the people of Ukraine for as long as it takes, everyone around this table. Sir Keir was flanked by Mr. Zelensky and Mr. Macron as he delivered his remarks at the top of the meeting. Leaders had earlier posed for a family photo in front of their national flags before the discussions got underway. European leaders rallied around to support the Ukrainian president after the scenes in the Oval Office on Friday evening, which saw Mr. Trump publicly berating Mr. Zelensky. Sir Keir had told the BBC that the encounter made him feel uncomfortable, adding that nobody wants to see that. And yes, we don't want to see that. I'm going to link the rest of the article into the description box below so you can go and read it. But heads of state, presidents, prime ministers should not act like that in front of the public. That is just disgusting and smacks of bullying and also of a further threat to Europe and the allies of America. So this week, other news. I ran a distance of 116 kilometres throughout the month for refuge raising charity for them. I managed to raise £60, so thank you to everybody who donated. I really appreciate it. The goal was 56 kilometres and I finished on 116, so I'm really pleased with that. And this month, March, I'm going to be raising money for WWF, the World Wildlife Fund. And the goal is to run 100 kilometres for the month. My fundraising goal is £150. Once I reach £150, I will receive a medal from WWF. So please help me to reach that goal, as I would really love that medal to add to my collection. And finally, some other good news. I've been appointed as an ambassador for a women's sports clothing brand called Just Strong. I'm going to do a separate video about that, and it'll be later in the week. I'm waiting for my clothing to arrive, but I am honoured to have been chosen by them to represent their brand. No, I'm not being paid, but I will be doing a review on their brand, and I should be wearing it to running and I will let you know exactly how it feels. The brand supports women who are strong and have struggled through adversity and risen to reach their full potential. And I was so happy that I was chosen as an ambassador for their brand. So on that note, if you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. I really need to increase my subscribers so that once I reach 1,000, I can start monetizing the channel, which would be great as a source of income, because I really would like to invest in a proper video camera and a proper microphone. Now I better go and feed the cats. So blessed be.